Once a month, she would go to visit her beloved son, Tony, who was serving a term of life in prison without parole for a stupid, senseless act of retaliation when he had been 20 years old. He had done it to prove to the other boys of the hood that he was tough, that he was from the streets, and the code of the streets is never, ever to turn your cheek. He had fired a bullet, a single bullet. And how long does it take to fire a bullet? What is it? A 10th of a second? A 20th of a second? Not very long. But he had killed someone. And in doing that, in that impulsive 10th of a second act, he killed his wife. There were strong indications that he had acted in self-defense because he too had gotten shot as well. But this was 1976, and it was the heyday of the most racist mayor in America in Philadelphia, Frank Rizzo, and the most racist police force in America, which was the Philadelphia Police. He had a lousy lawyer who seemed half asleep most of the time, who didn't really care, who had seen these cases, let's get them done. And Tony, by his own admission, was a stupid, he's called himself that, a stupid punk. And he did not tell the truth when he testified, and he later told me, I thought I was smarter than everyone else, but I wasn't. But his mother, Fifi, never, ever, ever lost faith. She never lost hope that the day would come when he would be set free. For 20 years, she had made that trip to the prison called Graterford to see her son. And she would make it for as long as God would let her. At least once a month and sometimes more, if she could arrange the transportation, Fifi would go to visit Tony. The first few years, she felt apprehensive all the way up and then cried all the way back. But after a while, the rhythm of acceptance set in, and the trip became an automatic part of her life. Just like taking care of children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, up Henry Avenue, and then over to Ridge Avenue until it turned into Ridge Pike, then into the gray water town of Graterford. When she had the time, she would stop at a bread factory to get some bread on the cheap. And when her parents were alive and visiting with her, they always went to the smorgasbord of the college building. She dressed beautifully on this particular day when she went to see her son, as if to conceal from him the worries and the responsibilities that weighed her down. You look great, he said. And she acknowledged that not only had she done up her hair, but she had also put in her teeth. They hugged each other, and he called her Mommy. The severity of the rules of prison visiting had increased and decreased over the years and had recently become quite Spartan. There was a time when you could pull chairs around and play something as simple as pinochle, but that wasn't allowed anymore. So Fifi and Tony sat side by side in a long row of sagging chairs with greasy arms. She brought him the food he liked from the vending machine, and they talked idly and comfortably for 2 hours, and it was hard to believe that this was the way they had been forced to talk for all those years, under the glare of guards and over the noise of other inmates and against the green grime of those walls. Their love truly did flow like a river, unyielding and undying. Mother to son and son to mother. He privately worried about how tired she looked, and she privately worried about how some gray was beginning to show around his temples. She dreamed of just once cooking him a meal. He dreamed of just once taking her on a cruise. He worried that she would die while he was still in prison, and she worried that she would die before God answered her and he was set free. Keep the faith, he said when it was time for her to leave. and he bent to give her a hug. One of the two he was allowed during visitation. A brief one at the beginning, and another brief one right at the very end. "I'll try, Tony, I'll try," she said as tears formed in her eyes. Then he stayed where he was, and she lumbered out through the visitor's room and back up the stairs. The stairs were steep, and there was a little elevator attached to the railing for those who were handicapped. Fifi sighed and laughed and looked at those stairs as if she were scaling Everest, and told the guard that the next time she came, she was going to go the proper way in that little elevator. But then she looked at the stairs, and she did what she always did. She took hold of the railing and climbed. Fifi did die several years ago. It was an incredible tragedy to her family, to Tony, to the city of Philadelphia. When I was working on the book, I promised her that I would do everything I could to help her son, Tony, get out of prison. I've kept in touch with Tony for 15 years now. He's almost 60, and more than half his life, 34 years, has been spent in prison for a crime that in today's world would merit, at least in Philadelphia, a sentence of maybe 10 years. From what I know, from reading the transcript and talking to other people, he did act in self-defense. He did have lousy counsel. It is clear that police coached witnesses and told them what to say. But because his sentence does not allow for parole, it means he has to be pardoned by the governor. And governors in the state of Pennsylvania, like all governors in all states, are loath to give out pardons, not for reasons of humanity, of course, but for political ones, to show voters that they are tough on crime, instead of showing voters that, in fact, they do believe in humanity. I have talked with Tony, and I have seen him dozens of times. I would vouch for him in a second as I would vouch for my own children. He is a man of great warmth and great intelligence and great kindness. He is not arrogant about what he did. He is not defensive about what he did. He knows what he did was wrong. He feels guilt every day that he took another person's life. He knows every day that he made a terrible, stupid mistake. And I do think that after 34 years, he has paid for that mistake. He misses his mother, Fifi, so much. Sometimes when he talks about her, he does softly cry. And every minute of every day, he faces the fear that he will die in a prison cell. He will die alone and forgotten, and he will be placed in a pauper's grave without anyone to say farewell. Never, ever really knowing the most precious thing in life, which is freedom. His life, a jail cell, with a Bible, a TV, and a picture of his mother that is only becoming increasingly faded. I actually this week got a card from Tony. I'd given him a few bucks for a TV set because his old one had blown out. And he wrote me a thank you note. And he said in it, "God bless you, Buzz." The note serves as a reminder to me of the promise that I did make to his mother, that I would do everything I could to help him get out of prison, because I believe he should get out. It is a long shot. In all probability, it is a no shot. I don't think he ever will. But I do know this. He has paid for what he has done. He has paid. And as he languishes in prison, as he gets grayer and older by the second and the minute and the hour, his own family of grandchildren, of nephews and nieces has fallen apart. Almost all of them in prison. The cycle of poverty and despair repeated over and over and over. And where is he better off? Is he better off in prison, or is he better off as trying to be a male role model to these kids? Life gets complicated because life is complicated. You have your own children to attend to, as I do. You have your own life to attend to. The realities of journalism and writing today makes the story of a Tony Mazuka, it's not very interesting to editors. Not enough glamour. Not enough sex appeal. No place for it in the entertainment culture with which we, like human ticks, engorge ourselves with the latest on Lindsay Lohan and Mel Gibson and Britney Spears and the rest of the ship of fools. A man who should get out of prison? Who cares? But a promise is a promise. And I will one day write that story. I will one day find a magazine to publish it. And maybe, just maybe, there is a lawyer out there that will see that justice has not been served and take up his cause. Because in the end, at least for me, and the kind of writing and journalism that I do, in the end, it is the very reason why I am here, why journalists are here, and must be here, and must stay here, whatever happens, to fulfill that motto that must whisper in all of our hearts like the murmur of a river. To comfort the afflicted, to afflict the comfortable, to give voice to the voiceless, to give recognition to the forgotten, to expose the exposed. Because once again, that isn't depressing. That is beautiful, if you can do that. If you can do it once in your life, it is the most lasting beauty that I know of. So I, in turn, say, God bless you, Tony. I will come through. I promise that I will.